So apparently I'm supposed to book a trip to Fort Lauderdale, or at least that's what my accountant told me that I am to do. Welcome in, travelers. I am your host, David, and this is Travel News and Views. This will be your weekly scoop on the goings on in the travel world, and we're going to try to have a little bit of fun along the way. So yeah, my accountant, aka my wife, said that we should book a trip to Fort Lauderdale to be there on November 6th of this year. Now, this comes after I have been specifically told no more trips. We've booked enough already this year. We do not need to book any more trips. So this kind of hit me out of the blue. Why should we book this trip to Fort Lauderdale? And then it hit me. Princess Cruises has named the godparents for their newest cruise ship, the Star Princess, the 177,000 gross ton ship that will be debuting in October in Europe and having a couple of voyages there before making the transatlantic cruise over to its home port in Fort Lauderdale. Now, this happens to be coming in, and there's going to be a christening there with none other than Matthew and Camilla McConaughey on November 6th of 2025. This is why I was told we could book this trip. Now, being the good customer that I am to my accountant and trying to heed my accountant's words of wisdom in not booking any more trips this year, I think this one may have to pass. What do you think? Do you want to go down to Fort Lauderdale and watch this? Now, it's really cool. I do love Princess Cruises. I love the Sun Princess. I've been on Sun Princess and I've got it booked again, and I actually just saw one today that I would really like to book another. However, I am very interested in booking on the Star Princess when it comes over to the U.S. What about you? Do you have one booked on Star Princess? Do you have one booked on the Sun Princess? I'd like to know. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. Now on to a few more news items worthy of this here program. Royal Caribbean's Enchantment of the Seas rescues a tiny raft out in the middle of the ocean that was overcrowded with a lot of people. These were refugees. And the Enchantment of the Seas was on an alternate itinerary, one that they had to change because of bad weather coming into the Bahamas. So they decided to head over toward Mexico. And while they're on their way, on Sunday evening, September 28th, they found this little craft out there, this little makeshift raft full of people. And so they erred on the side of, hey, let's save these folks because this is a dangerous place out here in the middle of the ocean. And these folks, they don't have any business being on this tiny raft out there. So good for the Enchantment of the Seas to go in and rescue those folks. Now, it's not uncommon for this to happen between Mexico and Cuba, for cruise ships to rescue folks or saving lives, and it always takes precedence over the itinerary. One of the things that I really like about cruising is being able to go into the main dining room and eat food that is really tasty. And if I don't really like what I got the first time, I can get another. I can say, you know what, let me have the entree part 2. And if I'm really feeling crazy, I can say, let me have the entree part 3. Now, that's very rare for me. I've told you guys in the past, I'm not really a foodie, but I do love to go into the main dining room and enjoy that experience. And the great thing about it is you can enjoy a couple of different dishes if you wish. Now, I've done that maybe once or twice, or I've kind of shared with my wife. She gets one thing, I get another. Now, there was a secret little caveat on the bottom of the Norwegian Cruise Line's menu in the main dining room that says a second entree will now cost you $5. It is going to be $5 more for that second, third, fourth entree, whatever it is that you want to get. I don't know. Would you do it? Would you pay for that second entree? Some folks say that it's just nickel and diming as usual with the cruise lines. But I say, I think they're trying to cut back on food waste, or maybe they're trying to do save you from yourself. Don't overeat. Or we're going to charge you for overeating, and you're going to feel bad in two ways. One, you'll be stuffed, and you'll really feel bad later, and you're also going to have to pay a little out of your pocket. Now, Norwegian Cruise Lines is not the first to implement a charge in the main dining room, but they may be the first to implement a charge for the second entree. Speaking of food and speaking of Norwegian Cruise Lines, they are going to have a 5-night Bobby Flay and Friends cruise on the Norwegian Joy. This cruise will take place next November, November 6th of 2026. It's going to have Bobby Flay and a lot of other top chefs will be on the ship. There's going to be cooking classes. There's going to be mixology demonstrations. There's going to be Q&A sessions with Bobby and the chefs. I think it'll be a great time. I'm not, into the Food Network thing, but I love Bobby Flay. I love to watch him cook and and I learn so much from him when I do watch. But it's not must-see TV for me, but I do like to watch Bobby when he's on. So I'm curious, is this something that you would do? Is this something that you're interested in? If it is, let me know. I'll be glad to help you look it up. Have you ever had a long layover when you were flying? I mean, you've had a long layover. Like, I know some layovers, for me, a long layover is 3 hours. If it's a 3-hour layover, then I'm really kind of getting, okay, this is a little bit long here. But, I've had longer layovers. I've had delays. I've had all kinds of things happen to me when I've been flying. And have you? I know I have. I've never had a 2-day delay, though. Never had that happen to me. And I really don't know if that's something that I would handle very well. However, in this case, Delta Airlines had to make an emergency landing because there was a small fire. Now, if there's a small fire, I would want them to land. I would say, yes, we need to land. Let's land this plane quickly. So there was a flight leaving out of Nigeria, I think on September 23rd. The flight was leaving out of Nigeria, heading to Atlanta. There was 188 passengers on board. And the fire started about 90 minutes, I think, after the flight started. They said, okay, we need to land this plane. So they were able to make an emergency landing in Ghana. And when they got there, the maintenance crew checked it out and said, hey, it was a small fire. It was contained in an oven. It was basically some food particles that were in there in a small oven. No damage done. Nobody was hurt. Everybody was okay. The plane was okay. Just maybe this little oven had that little fire in it. However, they did go on the side of caution, which I think is best. I know I would want them to go on the side of caution. However, here's what happened. So about 70 folks were able to get out of there and leave either that day or the next day and get on into the U.S. But that left about 118 folks who had to stay there for about 48 hours to then fly from Ghana to Atlanta. Talk about a delay. That's a pretty long delay. I've got a trip planned next year to go overseas, and I'm going to be going over into Rome and Athens. I'm going to get on a cruise ship while I'm over there. Going to do some exploring, checking out the Mediterranean. But one of the things I want to talk to you about now is that American travelers are now going to be fingerprinted, and you're going to have some facial recognition things that are going to be happening. So starting in October, there's going to be a couple things happen. Whenever you enter the European Union, certain countries are going to start rolling this out. It's an entry and exit system. It's going to replace some of the passport stamping, which I kind of like. I kind of like getting the passport stamped. I guess I'm kind of old school, maybe you couldn't tell. But I like getting that passport stamp. I like having that. Now, I've been in several countries where I've not got my passport stamped simply because I've been on a cruise ship and I didn't have to take my passport into the new country. But I can always say, I marked that one off my list. I marked that one off my list. But now, you're going to have to put your fingerprints down and you are going to have your face recognized, which for most of us who cruise, we see that now. A lot of times you can just go right through. They'll look at your face when you come back into the country through customs, and boom, it's there. So I'm kind of already familiar with that. If you've traveled on cruising and that's been a part of your cruise package, then you've seen that already. I don't know. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about having to put your fingerprints down? Now, from what I understand, it's just going to happen as soon as you get into the country. It's not going to be something that you're going to have to do if you get into the country and then you get into Europe and then you travel to another country and you travel to another country. It's not something you're going to have to do every time you travel. It's just when you first make that entry from the U.S. into the European Union, then you're going to have that done. Now, from what I understand, they're not going to be doing this for anybody who's 12 years old or younger. So just want you to be aware that you're going to have to go a new process. You know, there's always new processes in travel. There's a new process for this and process for that. But hey, we kind of adapt, we go for it, and we make the best of it. Again, another reason why I say use a good travel agent. They should be keeping up with these things and what's going on. And as always, do not forget to hit that like button, the subscribe button, share with a friend. That's the view from this week. Keep calm, cruise on, and I will see you next time.